Hello guys, welcome back. I have set up requirements for Ionic framework and Loopback. Now let's move next to create our Loopback server. We will use REST APIs of Loopback server in our Ionic app later. Let me tell you what will you learn at the end of this tutorial. The first thing which will you learn is how to create Loopback server using Loopback CLI. The next thing is how to create a model in your Loopback server. The last thing is call REST APIs of your Loopback server using REST client. Now let me tell you a little bit about the application. This application will help users to make a list of their daily tasks. For the moment we will create only task model, but later in this tutorial series we will create the user model as well to handle user authentication in this application. So let's get started. I have already created my project folder on my desktop. I'll open this and create my Loopback server over here. To create Loopback server, I'll need to open command windows over here. So let me open command windows. I'll use Loopback CLI to create application. So let me type lb. It will prompt for the name of Loopback application. So let's wait. So it has prompted for the name of application. I'll say lb app. The next thing, it's asking for directory of the project. I'll keep this as default. I want to use Loopback 3, so I'll keep this 3.x. I want to create an empty server, so I'll say empty server. Now it's installing basic modules of Loopback server, so I'll wait and come back when it's finished. So the installation has finished. The next thing which we need to create is Datasource. For Datasource we need to install connector for our Loopback server. In this case I want to use MongoDB connector, so I'll have to install MongoDB Loopback connector. First let's move to the root directory of our project, cd lb app. So I'll install Loopback connector for MongoDB. So I'll need to install npm install save Loopback connector MongoDB. So this will install our Loopback connector for MongoDB. So let's wait. So our Loopback connector for MongoDB has been installed. Now let's create our data source. I'll use the Loopback CLI to create our data source, lb data source. So it will ask for name of our data source. So I'll say demo. The next thing it is asking for our Loopback connector. I'll use MongoDB, which we just have installed. So let's look for MongoDB option. The next thing is it's asking for connection string of URL. So I'll say keep this as default. Host is localhost. Post is 27017. User is empty by default. Password empty. Database is demo as well. So our data source has also been created. The next thing which we need to do is create our task model. For that I'll use Loopback CLI to create our model. So I'll say Loopback model. It will ask different properties of model. So first it's asking for model name. So I'll say task. And the connector for MongoDB for this model is MongoDB, and the type of model is persistent model, and we want to expose this on REST APIs, so I'll say yes, and by default for custom plural, and the server is common. So first property name is name of the task, and the type of task is string, and this name is required every time when we need to create this model. I'll say yes. By default it's blank. So next property is date. This date is when this task is created. So I'll say, and type of this date is date. And next, I'll say no by default, because I want to just make name required property when we want to create task model. And the next thing is blank by default. The next property is to do date, when the task need to be done. So I'll say to do date, and the type of this to do date is also date. Required no. And I'll keep this blank by default. So that's all for the creation of our task model. So now I want to start the server. So for that, first I'll have to start my Mongo connection. For that, I'll go to the C directory, program files, and MongoDB server bin. And here I'll start the Mongo. So let me open command windows over here and say Mongo. So as you can see, the Mongo connection has also been started, but in this case you will have to every time start Mongo connection when you need to start your Loopback server. Alternatively, you can copy this path and add into path. The second thing which you can do is create a service for Mongo connection. As you can follow the instructions on MongoDB connection, how to create a service. So I have already created a server, so I'll start that server instead of going to the Mongo bin folder and start our Mongo connection. So for that, I'll need to open command windows as an admin. So I'll open this as admin, and then I'll simply start MongoDB service. So I'll say net start MongoDB. So our MongoDB service will start. You not need to start MongoDB service every time you need to start your Loopback server. Every time you start your system, this MongoDB service will automatically start. So now we need to start our server. So I'll say node space dash, and this will start our servers. As you can see, the server has started. So we'll go to and type in this URL in our browser. So I'll say localhost 3000 Explorer. So guys, here you can see that our LB app has been created and it contains only one model, task. These are all the CRUD operations or the basic APIs which Loopback has created for this task model. You can use all these APIs in your Ionic app. So let me just test get call of our task model. So I'll simply have to go and click try it out. And so for the moment the response body is empty because we have not posted any data yet. So let me post data. Although we can post data using this method, but I want to use REST client to post data. So I'll simply go to REST client and first let me type API URL. So I'll say simply API tasks. If I get tasks, so if we get the call, this will also give us the empty response. So now let me post the data. So for post data, I'll have to use JSON and post some data. For the moment, name is required, so I'll simply send a name in body. So I'll say name, say test, and if we send this, so our data has been posted. If we again get the tasks list, so this will give the list and which will contain one data. So that's all for this. Now we'll move forward to the Ionic app and use these REST APIs in our Ionic app.